and welcome to the New World Review. I'm Grandline Waifu, and today I have an obscene amount to talk about, so let's get into it. Episode 130 had a very definite curve that I would say we could categorize as a downward slope, worthy of Neon Genesis Evangelion. We started on the medium high of the king returning to his castle with that Star Wars muzak of choice, and with everyone who was nearby taking a look at his flightiness. It was a good look at the ways in which everyone is taking in the scene and the knowledge that the only person they thought was equipped to actually end him is most certainly dead, and most certainly failed. Each side, interestingly, seems so focused on the animalistic tendencies of the other that I'm intrigued fairly constantly by the differences and similarities between them both. Both sides simply want to exist. Both sides believe they are the ultimate evolution, and both sides would probably, if there were enough resources, have just existed. It's not like they can't understand each other, and it's not like they can't understand the needs of the other, and we see that very clearly by the end of the episode. The concept of human grapes is kind of gross, and I'm not actually sure why Poof brought it up, beyond the need to stall. I maintain that the king knows exactly what Poof has been doing and what he is doing. I maintain that Poof, of all of them, is actually probably genuinely a villain. The others may lack empathy or the ability to connect with the others, but Poof, I'm realizing, doesn't just dislike humans and think they're filth, essentially. He also seems to be misinterpreting his traitorousness for loyalty on such a consistent level that I do, in fact, wonder whether he's aware that what he's trying to do is control the king. More so than Wolfie, he's inadvertently becoming the king behind the scenes. And I do wonder if that's a deliberate thing or not. Being one with the king, there's a certain power in knowing what your leader is thinking at all times, but that doesn't mean the king can't read also what he's thinking. It's a two-way street, and I feel like he's forgetting that. His rush to clean up is somewhat pointless, ultimately, because Yuppie is also there and knows what was in the room and who Meruem spent the most time with in that space. It seems odd to me that Puff is trying so hard to control the memories Meruem recovers in that context. Meanwhile, what's her name? Psychic bug lady? Palm. Yes, she has the ability to see what everyone's up to as long as she doesn't see new people. As someone who forgets about people's existence unless I am explicitly reminded about them every now and then, no matter how I feel about them, I hear you, sister. I hear you. My brain does that too. While we're talking about her, I really like that she and Killua have come to some kind of understanding. I like that they're engaging with each other in a useful way, and I like that she's sort of been upgraded to human status, which is an odd thing to say because she's not human anymore, but bear with me. When we first met her, she was not human. She was object. She was female object who has emotional issues, and we will never see her interacting with people in a healthy way because females, trademark, can't do that, of course. She was an object for Nov, pretty female of use, but not of interest. She was a sex object for that other asshole, obviously. I can't remember what his name is. The little dickhead, like that, I don't even know did he die? I don't remember. I don't even remember what happened to him. I'm sure he's around being a dickhead. Anyway, she was a sex object for that guy. Now she is not controlled. Being reborn as she has been, she's sort of safe now from that. Which is sad because she had to go through a whole lot of trauma. The only people who never treated her as an object were Gon and Killua sees that and essentially calls attention to it. He thanks her out of need to acknowledge her existence, then calls her a friend, and that's that. Her object status is gone. Now, Gon and Pito on their most awkward, silent, angry journey. The silence of the journey, the silence of the situation, where they've gone, the quiet of the remainder of the episode led to some really interesting effects. Silence has been used to great effect at times in this series, and the emptiness of that hallway with only the response to the phone call and the conversation between Pito and Poof was tension building in a way that surprised me by its outcome. What Poof has done to Pito is something I'd like to sit with for a bit. Poof has on various occasions mentioned that people are under his spell. What we haven't had really is any confirmation that what's happening there is actually an ability or just a verbalization of his ability to manipulate people. Poof's true special ability to me, it doesn't lie in his Nen abilities, but in his social skills. His control of people has really been a changer of events, and no one's Nen abilities have had more sway on the outcome of all of this than Perf's social skills. And regardless of what comes next, I think it's important to note that. Perf's ability to cellular reshape is, if I'm honest, the most frustrating thing that has happened thus far in the series. Why? Because at this point it feels like Togashi is using Perf as a sort of deus ex machina. I don't call him a Mary Sue because he's not good and clearly clearly has flaws, but the abilities he's using have never been described as having morphed. They've never been described as having changed or developed, so we're led to believe they were always there, which makes me wonder why they were not used before, in other ways. I understand that using one's abilities in new ways because circumstances have changed is a thing, but unlike Yuppie, I feel like this new ability to mimic anyone at all by changing himself on a cellular structure is just, I have a problem, and didn't really want to think about how else to solve it, so look, Perv can do it. Yay! But moving on, because there's a lot to talk about yet. Kite. As we suspected, he's dead. We knew he was dead. He was already dead. We've known he was dead this whole time, and we've known that Gon believed he could fix Kite, that it was solvable. It was not. I knew that. You knew that. And I've been waiting for Gon to learn it since we saw that head in Pito's lap. So, what to say about this sequence? Pito's hatred of Gon was undermined by its respect of Gon, or its hatred of Gon was bolstered by its respect of Gon, and I'm not sure which it was. Gon could not, and so did not, hear everything Pito said. Something Pito said was of great interest to me, but I have no idea if it was deliberate, and I don't know if the translation is right. I'm hoping that it is, because I'm fascinated by it. When Pito spoke of being able to bring people back to life, it used the past tense. It said, I was unable to bring people back. What that suggests to me is that Pito now, at this time, is capable of it and has made a choice not to. This, more than anything at all, illuminates the state of affairs for me. It shows the shift in status more than anything else. Gon's spiral into hopelessness, his spiral into helplessness, all of that can be remedied by a realization that Pito is the one to blame, as his thoughts want to assert. But that he didn't respond to that tells me he's full of something else and distracted, and potentially fatally? Though I doubt it. Maybe I'm wrong. Probably am. I just don't know. Pito remembering Gon, asking his name, not looking at him. The rebuilding of Pito as Gon faded was a beautiful use of energy in an otherwise static scene. Because we really didn't need to see Kite's eulogy again. But Gon did. It's incredibly rare that we see into Gon's mind and the fallout of that. The last time we did was when Kite's body fought him. At that time he filled with rage, forgetting Kite, because there was someone to blame and hate and kill for what had been done. Now Gon has no one to blame but himself. The power of this character has been in his unwavering belief that he could fix anything. And this is proof that he can't. And it's fascinating to watch because he grieves in real time, but it's hard to know what he's grieving. Is it Kite? Is it the closest thing he knew to his father? Is it his own strength? Is it himself? Is it his father? Is he grieving because Kite told him not to harm animals and he somehow managed to ignore that teaching? If Gon was stone for the last 10 episodes or so, now he's paper, and Pito is repairing their scissors. That Gon is shifting between two fair assumptions is interesting. They're two views that are both actually accurate, you know? If he hadn't gone along with Kite, Kite would likely have survived because he wouldn't have had to consider protecting the boys, who he had actively told he wouldn't protect. Arguably, in that way, Kite killed Kite. He sacrificed himself. It's neither of these two characters' fault because Kite was a grown-up capable of making his own decisions. It really should have been on him to tell Gon, the child, not to get involved in the situation. It wouldn't have worked, but that is the thing people keep forgetting. Kite has been so frequently dehumanized in this arc that it bears mentioning that Kite has been as symbolic as Palm. More so, really, because he's been dead in this arc more than he's been alive, and was the inciting incident, but so forgettable we keep getting shown images of his basic existence. In a number of ways, we see how simple the character is, but when we see those basic insignificant behaviors, we're also looking from Gon's point of view. And we see both that Gon has oversignified the existence of someone he knew for a few days and deified that existence such that the question of whether Kite was strong enough to resist Pito's original abilities was unarguable to him. Regardless, the two halves of Gon become fixated on whether to blame himself or something else. Technically described, he began to question internal or external locus of control. And this is a review, right? So I use these technical terms because I'm literally writing my doctorate about them. The internal argument at play is asking whether he killed Kite or if Pito killed Kite. Someone with an internal locus of control or a belief in their own ability to influence outcomes would say Gon did. Gon could have done something better to influence the outcome, and so it is Gon's fault that Kite was killed and his body defiled. On the other hand, someone with an external locus of control might believe that forces outside Gon controlled the outcome. In this case, it's fair to say that Pito killed him. And that's a deeply fascinating concept to me because it touches on so many individual areas of my own scientific interest. but I will hold myself back from wandering into philosophy mode because we'll never get out of it. Simply put, being able to sit somewhere in the middle or look at the situation from the view of both and find a balanced outcome in which you can actually accept that it was both is a mark of balance. It's a mark of maturity. But Gon's a kid, so that level of insight is an interesting one, especially in a child who has questioned and seen the world so often in black and white. Of course he'd think only one of these things can be true. That said, if Gon comes to the conclusion that it's both, in his current state I could imagine him trying to punish both in some way, depending on whether or not Pito actually responds to him and how they decide to react to things. So I'm excited to know what comes next because it's rare that research actually goes into that behavior, its outcomes, and it's kind of fun. It's fun for me now. This is like actively fun because it's touching on the things I'm directly interested in. This isn't how I usually do things, but this episode touched on some really interesting things that I needed to go into on a deeper level. So for this week, that's it from me. If you enjoyed this random drop into my research and want to hear my thoughts on the next episode, click here, and here. I mean, the next episode will be next week. I don't know. Hit the bell, spread the word, and I'll see you next time.